Valara staggered forward, the jagged rocks beneath her feet cutting into her skin. The twin moons of Selkira hung high above, casting a cold, pale light over the wasteland. The air was dry, filled with the distant howls of predators lurking in the darkness. She was alone, abandoned, betrayed. Just hours ago, she had stood before the Jirak High Council, her hands bound, her honor stripped away. The elders had looked down at her with disgust, their glowing red eyes full of judgment. Valara of House Xorith, the Grand Chancellor, had declared, his voice echoing through the great hall, "You are guilty of treason against the Dominion. For your crimes, you are exiled. You will not return. You will not be remembered." She had tried to defend herself, to explain that she was loyal, that the accusations were false, but they had not listened. The council had already decided. They needed a scapegoat, and she was the perfect target. Now she was here, left to die on this forsaken world. Her body ached from the wounds she had suffered during the struggle. The Dominion guards had not been gentle when they threw her out of the transport ship. She could still feel the burn of their plasma whips against her back. But the pain of betrayal hurt far more. She clenched her fists, her sharp claws digging into her palms. She was a warrior, trained from birth to fight and survive. She would not die here. She refused. A low growl echoed through the night. Valara turned, her keen eyes scanning the shadows. Something was watching her. Something hungry. A pack of Skreth hounds emerged from the darkness, their glowing blue eyes locked onto her. They were reptilian creatures, with long, scaly bodies and razor-sharp teeth. They circled her, moving closer with each passing second. Valara reached for a weapon, but she had none. The council had taken everything from her. She was defenseless. The first hound lunged. She twisted aside, barely avoiding its snapping jaws. Another attacked, and she struck it with her fist, but it barely flinched. There were too many. She could not fight them all. As the creatures closed in, a sudden blast of energy shot through the air, striking one of the hounds. It yelped and fell, smoke rising from its body. Another shot followed, then another. The remaining creatures snarled and flowed into the night. Valara turned, breathing heavily. A figure stood a few meters away, holding a plasma rifle. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and unmistakably human. His dark hair was unkempt, his clothes worn from travel. He lowered his weapon and studied her with cautious eyes. "Looks like you needed some help," he said, his voice calm but firm. Valara narrowed her eyes. A human. Here. She had always been taught that humans were weak, unpredictable creatures. But this one had just saved her life. She didn't know whether to thank him or attack him. Valara sat in the dim glow of the ship's cabin, her sharp eyes scanning the small space. It was simple but functional, strange for a human. Most humans she had encountered before were either arrogant traders or desperate scavengers. But Daniel was different. He treated her wounds, gave her food, and didn't ask for anything in return. She didn't understand why. She pushed the thought aside and focused on her next move. She couldn't stay here forever. The Jirak Dominion never left loose ends. If they had exiled her, it meant they wanted her dead. And if they found out she was alive, they would come for her. Daniel leaned against the control panel, arms crossed. "You're thinking about running, aren't you?" Valara looked up, eyes narrowing. "It is not your concern, human." He smirked. "You're on my ship. That makes it my concern." Before she could respond, a loud beeping sound filled the cabin. Daniel's smirk vanished as he turned to check the screen. His expression darkened. "We've got company," he muttered. Valara stood immediately, her warrior instincts kicking in. "Who is it?" Daniel tapped a few buttons, pulling up the ship's external scanners. A Jirak patrol ship hovered just beyond the rocky cliffs, scanning the area. Valara's heart pounded. "They are looking for me." Daniel frowned. "Figured as much." He turned to her. "They'd really want you dead, huh?" She clenched her fists. "They fear what I know." Daniel didn't ask for details. He simply moved to the pilot's seat and started pressing buttons. "All right, hold on. I'm getting us out of here." The ship rumbled as the engines roared to life. Outside, the Jarek ship noticed the movement and immediately changed course, heading straight for them. Valara grabbed the edge of the seat for balance. "They will not let us escape easily." Daniel smirked. "Good. I like a challenge." He pulled the controls, and the ship shot forward, dodging between the jagged cliffs. The Jarek patrol ship fired, red plasma bolts streaking through the sky. One shot grazed the side of their ship, shaking the cabin violently. "Damn it," Daniel cursed, twisting the controls sharply. The ship swerved, barely avoiding another blast. Valara's warrior instincts kicked in. She moved to the weapons console. "Your ship has weapons. Not the best, but they'll do," Daniel said, focused on flying. "Think you can shoot?" Valara's lips curled into a smirk. "I never miss." She activated the targeting system, locking onto the pursuing ship. With a press of a button, twin plasma cannons fired, striking the enemy ship's wing. It spiraled, struggling to regain control. Daniel let out a laugh. "Not bad." The enemy ship recovered quickly and fired again. This time, it was a direct hit. Sparks flew as alarms blared. Valara growled. "We need to lose them." Daniel's eyes flickered with determination. "Hold on tight. I have an idea." With a sudden burst of speed, the ship dived into a thick asteroid field. The real battle had just begun. The stolen ship soared through hyperspace, leaving the Dominion warship far behind. Valara sat in the co-pilot's seat, staring at the data core in her hands. Inside this small device was the truth, the proof that could destroy the Dominion's lies. Daniel leaned back in his seat, letting out a long breath. "Well, that was fun." Valara raised an eyebrow. "We almost died." Daniel smirked. "Yeah, almost." She shook her head, but deep inside, she felt something strange. Relief. She had spent so long running, hiding, surviving. Now, for the first time, she had a chance to fight back. The plan. Daniel tapped on the navigation screen. "So, where do we go now?" "You got a secret base somewhere." Valara thought for a moment. "There is a rebel network. A small group that opposes the Dominion. If we deliver this data to them, they will spread the truth across the galaxy." Daniel nodded. "All right. Sounds like a plan." He adjusted the ship's course, setting the destination for a distant star system. Valara glanced at him. "Why are you helping me?" Daniel looked at her, his usual grin replaced with something more serious. "Because it's the right thing to do." Valara frowned. "I was taught that humans only care for themselves." Daniel chuckled. "Guess I'm not a normal human then." She studied him for a moment, then nodded. "No, you are not." The message of hope. Hours later, the ship landed on a hidden moon base. The rebels, a mix of different species, greeted them cautiously. Valara stepped forward, holding up the data core. "This contains the truth," she said. "The Dominion's war crimes, their lies, everything." A rebel leader, an old human named Captain Reynolds, took the core and inserted it into a terminal. The screen flickered, revealing horrifying images: destroyed colonies, innocent civilians slaughtered, evidence of the Dominion's corruption. The room fell silent. Reynolds turned to Valara. This could change everything." She nodded. "That is the goal." One of the rebels clenched his fists. "We need to spread this across every system. Let the galaxy see the truth." Reynolds smiled. "And when they do, the Dominion will fall." Valara felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She had done it. She had finally struck back. A new path. As the rebels began their work, Daniel leaned against the ship. "So what now?" Valara looked at the stars. "I spent my life fighting for the wrong side. Now I fight for the right one." She turned to him. "Will you stay?" Daniel grinned. "Of course. Someone's got to keep you out of trouble." Valera smirked. Then let us begin. As the stars shimmered above them, a new war was beginning, one not for conquest, but for freedom. And this time, they would fight together. Valera stood still, her sharp eyes locked on the human. Her breathing was heavy, her muscles tense. She had just escaped death, but now she faced another danger. A human. The man lowered his rifle, keeping his hands where she could see them. Easy now, he said. I'm not here to hurt you. Valera didn't trust him. The Jarak Dominion had always called humans weak, deceitful, and dangerous. And yet, this one had just saved her life. Who are you? She asked, her voice rough from exhaustion. The man took a step closer. Name's Daniel Carter, he said. I was passing through when I saw you in trouble. He nodded toward the dead Screth hound. Good thing I got here in time. Valera glanced at the body of the creature. She hated owing anyone a debt, especially a human. But she could not deny the truth. Without him, she would be dead. She straightened her posture, ignoring the pain in her wounds. I did not need your help, she said coldly. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Right, he said, glancing at the deep scratches on her arms. You looked like you had it under control. Valera clenched her jaw, but said nothing. She had been trained to never show weakness, but her body betrayed her. The injuries, the exhaustion, the hunger, it was too much. Her legs trembled, and before she could stop herself, she collapsed to one knee. Daniel sighed and walked toward her. She tried to move, but he crouched beside her and placed a hand on her shoulder. Whoa, take it easy, he said. You're hurt. She flinched at his touch, expecting roughness, but his grip was surprisingly gentle. No one had ever treated her this way before, not even her own kind. Come on, he said. I've got a ship nearby. There's food, water, and medical supplies. Valera hesitated. Accepting help from a human felt like a betrayal to her people. But her people had already betrayed her first. If she refused, she would die here alone. She looked into his eyes, searching for deception, but found none. Just patience. Just kindness. With great reluctance, she nodded. Fine, but only until I am strong again. Daniel smirked. Sure, whatever you say. He helped her to her feet, supporting her weight as they walked. She hated feeling weak, but at this moment, she had no choice. His ship was not far, hidden in the ruins of an old outpost. It was small and worn, but functional. As they entered, the warm air and soft lighting made her realize just how cold and tired she was. Daniel guided her to a seat and handed her a water bottle. Drink, he said. Valera eyed the bottle suspiciously before taking a cautious sip. The cool liquid soothed her dry throat. As she sat there, watching this strange human move around his ship, a single thought entered her mind. Why would an enemy show her kindness? Daniel's ship twisted and turned through the asteroid field, dodging massive rocks floating in the void. The Jarak patrol ship followed closely, its plasma cannons firing relentlessly. Every blast shook the cabin, sparks flying from damaged panels. Valera gripped the weapon controls, her sharp eyes scanning the enemy's movements. They are skilled pilots, she admitted. Daniel smirked, sweat dripping from his brow. Yeah, well, so am I. He suddenly pulled the ship into a sharp dive, weaving between two giant asteroids. The Jarak ship followed, but too late. A massive rock shifted in their path, and they crashed into it with a fiery explosion. Valera exhaled slowly. Impressive. Daniel gave a small chuckle. Told you I like a challenge. The alarms in the ship still blared. Daniel checked the damage report. We're not out of this yet. That last hit knocked out the hyperdrive. We need to land somewhere for repairs. Valera studied the navigation screen. A nearby moon appeared, covered in thick clouds. There. It has an atmosphere. We can hide. Daniel nodded and steered the ship toward the moon. As they entered the atmosphere, the turbulence shook the cabin, but he managed to land safely on a rocky plateau. As soon as the engines powered down, Valera stood. "I must leave." Daniel frowned. "You're still injured, and this ship won't be flying anytime soon. Where do you plan to go?" Valera hesitated. She had no answer. She had nowhere left to go. But she could not stay here, relying on a human's kindness. Daniel sighed. "Look, I don't know what the Dominion did to you, but I do know one thing. They wouldn't send a kill squad unless you were important." He leaned against the control panel. "So tell me, why are they hunting you?" Valera's jaw tightened. She had kept her secret for so long, but Daniel had risked his life to help her. He deserved the truth. She took a deep breath. "I was a high-ranking warrior, loyal to the Dominion, until I discovered a terrible secret." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "What kind of secret?" Valera's eyes darkened. "War crimes. My commanding officers slaughtered innocent colonies and blamed it on humans. When I tried to expose them, they turned against me." Her claws clenched. "They framed me as a traitor and sentenced me to exile." Daniel whistled. "Damn, that's messed up." She nodded. "The proof of their crimes still exists, hidden in a Dominion data vault." Her voice hardened. "If I retrieve it, I can clear my name. I can destroy them." Daniel studied her for a long moment, then smirked. "All right." Valera frowned. "All right what?" He crossed his arms. "You need that data. I've broken into worse places before, so let's go steal it." Valera blinked. "You would help me?" Daniel shrugged. "Why not? Sounds fun." For the first time in a long while, Valera felt something unfamiliar. Hope. Valera tightened her grip on her blade, her eyes locked onto Commander Xylon. The sounds of battle surrounded her. Daniel firing his pistol, Dominion soldiers shouting, plasma shots echoing through the hangar. But in that moment, all she saw was her enemy. Xylon smirked. "You should have accepted your death when you had the chance." Valera bared her fangs. "You should have killed me properly." With lightning speed, she attacked. Their blades clashed, sparks flying. Xylon was strong, but Valera was faster. She ducked under his swing and slashed at his side, but he twisted, barely avoiding the cut. "You always were skilled," Xylon admitted, blocking her next strike. "But you are still weak." Valera growled. "I am not weak. I was loyal, until I saw what you truly are." She pressed forward, her attacks relentless. Xylon fought back with brutal efficiency, but Valera had something he didn't. She had a reason to win. Daniel's gamble. Across the hangar, Daniel took cover behind a cargo crate, firing at the Dominion soldiers. He took down 2, but more kept coming. "This is bad," he muttered. Then he spotted something. The hangar's force field controls. The only thing keeping the air inside the ship. A crazy idea formed in his head. "Valera," he shouted, "buy me 30 seconds." She didn't take her eyes off Xylon. "Do what you must." Daniel ran, dodging plasma fire as he reached the control panel. He pulled out his hacking device and connected it to the system. Numbers flashed across the screen. "Come on, come on. Victory or death." Valera and Xylon circled each other, blades ready. Xylon smirked. "You cannot win, traitor." Valera exhaled slowly. "Watch me." She faked an attack, making him block, then spun low, sweeping his legs out from under him. Xylon crashed to the ground. Before he could react, Valera lunged, driving her blade deep into his chest. Xylon gasped, his eyes wide with shock. "You are nothing," he choked. Valera leaned in, her voice cold. "And you are finished." She ripped her blade free. Xylon collapsed, lifeless. Escape into the void. Daniel grinned as his hacking device beeped. Got it. The force field flickered, then deactivated. Instantly, the hangar's emergency sirens blared as air rushed out into space. Soldiers screamed as they were pulled toward the void. Valera leaped toward Daniel as he activated his ship's emergency lockdown. The door hissed open, and they jumped inside just in time. Daniel slammed the controls. "Let's get the hell out of here." The ship roared to life, blasting out of the warship just as explosions rocked the hangar behind them. As they entered hyperspace, Valera sat back, holding the stolen data core. "It's over," she whispered. Daniel grinned. "No, it's just the beginning." The stolen supply ship drifted into the docking bay of the Dominion warship, its metal frame groaning as it settled onto the landing pad. Valera and Daniel sat in tense silence, watching the security monitors. Outside, Jarak soldiers patrolled the hangar, their armor gleaming under the cold artificial lights. Daniel exhaled. "All right, we're in. Now what?" Valera adjusted the stolen officer's uniform. "We walk out of here like we belong." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Just like that?" She nodded. "Hesitation is weakness. Jarak officers do not doubt. They command." Daniel smirked. "Guess I'll follow your lead." Blending in, the ship's doors hissed open, and the two stepped onto the docking platform. Valera moved with purpose, her expression cold and commanding. Daniel walked beside her, his stolen engineer uniform making him look like just another worker. A Jarak officer approached. His glowing yellow eyes flicked between them. "You are late." Valera didn't hesitate. "Security checks slowed us down. Do you wish to file a complaint?" The officer stiffened. Jarak soldiers were trained to obey those of higher rank. He shook his head. "No, sir." Valera nodded sharply. "Then return to your post." The officer saluted and walked away. Daniel let out a quiet breath. "Damn, you're scary." Valera smirked. "Stay close. We do not have much time." The vault. Navigating the corridors of the warship was easier than Daniel expected. Valera knew the layout well, guiding them through the maze of metal halls without hesitation. Finally, they reached the data vault. A thick, reinforced door blocked their way. A control panel glowed beside it, demanding a high-security clearance code. Daniel pulled out a small device from his belt. "All right, let's see if my hacking skills still work." Valera crossed her arms. "Make it quick." Daniel plugged the device into the panel. Numbers and symbols flashed across the screen. His fingers flew over the keys, overriding the system. A warning alarm flashed red. Unauthorized access detected. Valera's hand went to her weapon. "Hurry, human." Daniel gritted his teeth. Almost there. The alarm beeped louder. Then, click. The vault door slid open. Daniel grinned. "Told you I got this." Valera didn't waste time. She stepped inside, scanning the room filled with glowing data cores. She located the one she needed, carefully removing it. A small holographic screen displayed the files, evidence of the Dominion's war crimes, undeniable proof of their cruelty. Her hands tightened around the device. With this, she could destroy them. But outside, heavy footsteps echoed down the hall. Daniel cursed. "Looks like we've got company." Valera secured the data core. "Then we fight." The doors burst open. Dominion soldiers poured in, weapons raised. Valera bared her fangs. The real battle had begun. Valera sat stiffly in the small metal chair, her sharp eyes watching every move Daniel made. The human moved with ease inside his ship, checking supplies, preparing something in a metal container. The place was old but well-maintained, strange for a scavenger. He returned with a small metal case and placed it on the table in front of her. "Let's take care of those wounds," he said. Valera narrowed her eyes. "I can heal on my own." Daniel gave a small chuckle. "Sure, but it'll take longer, and you'll be in pain the whole time. I've got med gel. Works fast." She hesitated. The Jarak believed in strength, in enduring pain. Accepting help was seen as weakness, but she was already weak. Her body reminded her of that with every aching breath. Without waiting for permission, Daniel opened the case and pulled out a small applicator filled with blue gel. "This might sting a little," he warned. Before she could protest, he gently pressed the gel onto a deep wound on her arm. A burning sensation shot through her skin, but it quickly faded into a cool numbness. The wound, once raw and bleeding, began to close before her eyes. Valera's eyes widened. This is advanced healing technology. Where did you get this?" Daniel smirked. "Let's just say I have connections." She studied him closely. A simple scavenger wouldn't have access to such supplies. He was more than he appeared. But why would someone with these resources waste time helping a stranger? An enemy. Daniel continued treating her wounds with surprising care. His touch was steady, precise, lacking the cruelty of the Dominion's medics, who treated soldiers like machines. "You're not like most humans," she muttered. Daniel shrugged. "And you're not like most Sharak." She frowned. "You know of my kind." He nodded. "I fought in the border wars. Saw plenty of Sharak warriors. Most of them tried to kill me on sight." Valera tensed. "Then why help me?" Daniel sighed and leaned back in his chair. "Because not everyone deserves to die just because of who they are." He met her gaze. "And I saw what they did to you. The Dominion doesn't just exile their own unless there's a bigger reason. Someone wanted you dead." Valera clenched her fists. He was right. Her exile had been more than simple punishment. It had been an execution disguised as mercy. Daniel stood up and grabbed a ration pack from a shelf. He tossed it to her. "Eat. You need your strength." She caught it, eyeing him warily. "I do not trust you, human." He grinned. "That's fair. But trust me on this. If I'd wanted you dead, you wouldn't be sitting in my ship right now." Valera had no argument for that. For now, she would recover. But she would also find out why this human was so different from the monsters she had been taught to fear. Valera stared at Daniel, searching for any sign of deception. No human had ever offered to help her before, especially not against the Dominion. "You do not understand what you are offering," she said. "The Dominion's data vault is heavily guarded. It is inside a warship, surrounded by elite soldiers." Daniel smirked. "Sounds like a challenge." She narrowed her eyes. "This is not a game, human. If we are caught, we will not get a second chance." Daniel crossed his arms. "I get that. But I've been in worse situations. You need that data to clear your name. And I think it's about time someone knocked the Dominion down a peg." Valera hesitated. She had always believed humans were selfish creatures, only looking out for themselves. Yet this one was willing to risk his life for her. Finally, she nodded. "Very well, but if you slow me down, I will leave you behind." Daniel grinned. "Fair enough." Planning the heist. Inside the ship, Valera and Daniel studied the Dominion warship's schematics on a flickering display screen. "The data vault is here." Valera pointed at a secure chamber in the lower decks. "Heavily reinforced. No way to blast through." Daniel rubbed his chin. "So we sneak in." Valera nodded. "The Dominion uses supply ships to restock their warships. If we can hijack one, we can slip inside unnoticed." Daniel grinned. "I like it. And once we're inside." Valera's expression hardened. "We move fast. I will handle the guards. You find the data." Daniel chuckled. "So I do the sneaky work while you do the punching." She smirked. "That is the plan." Stealing the ship. The next night, they tracked a Dominion supply vessel landing at a remote outpost. The ship's crew, Jarek officers, were unloading cargo. Valera moved like a shadow, striking down the guards before they could raise an alarm. Daniel, using his own tricks, disabled the ship's security systems. Within minutes, they were in control. Daniel powered up the engines. "All right, let's hope they don't check the pilot's ID too closely." Valera adjusted her stolen officer's uniform. "If they do, we kill them." Daniel sighed. "You really need to work on your subtlety." She gave him a sharp look. and you need to prepare for battle. We may not get out of this alive." Daniel grinned as the stolen ship lifted off. "Now you're making it sound fun." Valera shook her head. This human was reckless, foolish, yet, for the first time in her life, she did not feel alone. As they approached the Dominion warship, the radio crackled. A voice spoke in the Jarek language. "Supply ship, state your clearance code." Daniel glanced at Valera. "Hope you're good at lying." Valera took a deep breath. If this failed, they would die before even stepping foot inside. She pressed the communicator. "This is Officer Xora. Clearance code 9-73 Zeta." A pause. Then, "Confirmed. Proceed to docking bay." Daniel let out a breath. Well, that was easy. Valera's eyes remained sharp. Too easy. Their mission had only just begun. The Dominion soldiers stormed into the vault, their weapons raised, glowing red with deadly plasma. Valera didn't hesitate. With lightning speed, she lunged forward, her claws slicing through the nearest soldier's rifle. Sparks flew as the weapon was destroyed. She grabbed the stunned enemy by the throat and threw him into the others, sending them crashing to the floor. Daniel ducked behind a metal console, pulling out his pistol. "You weren't kidding about fighting," he shouted, firing at the advancing troops. Valera dodged a plasma shot, flipping over a soldier and landing behind him. With a swift movement, she slammed her elbow into the back of his head, knocking him unconscious. More soldiers poured in. The alarm blared loudly, signaling reinforcements. Daniel reloaded his pistol. "We can't hold them off forever. Got any bright ideas?" Valera grabbed the stolen data core and secured it to her belt. "We need to reach the hangar." Daniel nodded. "Then let's move." A desperate run. They bolted out of the vault, sprinting down the metal corridors. Red lights flashed, sirens screaming through the warship. The entire vessel was now on high alert. Valera led the way, her knowledge of the ship's layout guiding them through maintenance tunnels and hidden passageways. Behind them, the sound of boots grew louder. The soldiers were closing in. Daniel glanced over his shoulder. "They're catching up." Valera spotted an emergency bulkhead door ahead. Inside, she and Daniel slid through just as the soldiers fired. Plasma bolts hit the door as it slammed shut behind them. Daniel let out a breath. That won't hold them for long. Valera didn't respond. She was already sprinting ahead. Hangar showdown. They burst into the hangar, where their stolen supply ship sat waiting. But blocking their path was a squad of Dominion elite soldiers, heavily armored and armed with energy blades. Valera cursed under her breath. They were waiting for us. The lead soldier stepped forward, removing his helmet. His face was familiar. Commander Ceylon, the officer who had ordered her execution. Well, well, Ceylon sneered. The traitor returns, and with a human pet, no less. Valera growled. Your lies end today, Ceylon. The truth is in my hands. Ceylon laughed. You think the Dominion fears the truth? You are nothing but a failed warrior. And now, you die like one. He raised his blade. Kill them. The elite soldiers charged. Valera drew her own blade, meeting them head-on. Metal clashed as she parried their strikes, moving with deadly precision. Daniel fired his pistol, taking down one soldier before ducking behind cover. A little help here. Valera spun, kicking an enemy back before slashing another across the chest. Ceylon stepped forward, his blade crackling with energy. Face me, traitor. Valera's eyes burned with fury. This was the fight she had been waiting for.